Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning back into the Freeman Focus. I'm your host, Mariano. And before we get started here today, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our season one sponsor, and that's What the Snark and Wild Rose, proudly supporting local stories, small businesses, and the creative community there in Wild Rose and surrounding areas. Today, I'm sitting down with Molly, who is someone whose life is guided by faith and service. She works in insurance, helping families protect what matters most. She's also a leader over at Crossroads Family Church, which is one of my favorite churches to attend. From worship, singing to Bible studies, just helping people connect and to
Mhm.
grow. So, Molly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Molly Dahlke, basically born and raised in Washera County. So very familiar with the area. Currently selling insurance for Rural Mutual Insurance, Victor Magnus's office here in town. And currently on the worship team at Crossroads Family Church. Have been there for about 2 years. Prior to that, is what they would call a cradle Catholic. I was born into the Catholic religion. So
Same.
yeah. So,
Whoopsies.
but about 2 years ago, I made the transition to Crossroads Family Church here in town. Joined the worship team, but before all of that, just about the start of COVID, I actually took it upon myself and a few other friends, and we had started doing our own independent Bible studies in town here, and it's for all denominations. As long as you're a Christian, you can come. We don't care. Catholic, Lutheran, Methodist, non-church goer, non-denominational, we don't care. So been going fairly strong for 5 years on that now.
That's
So
awesome. That is awesome. That's
yeah.
pretty cool. So, as far as insurance, you had mentioned that you work in insurance with Victor Magnus at Rural Mutual. Victor's involved with a lot of cool things with the community. I see that he's like,
Mhm.
I forget what's the word I'm looking for. The what is it called? Masons.
Yep, he's in the Freemasons. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I was like. Oh, I'm trying to reach for it. I'm like, I know it's there somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So he's definitely involved with community and growth as well. So that's really cool to have a boss like that.
It is. It is. I think I hear far too many times in 1 week where he'll tell clients, they're like, "Well, why do you do insurance?" And he's like, "Well, for 20 plus years, I did nothing but protect and serve my country. Why not come here and protect and serve everybody in my community where I live, but through insurance instead of through, you know, a military uniform type of thing?" So, um, and then the Freemasons is a really good outlet for him to be able to be with other like-minded men and be able to provide back to the community on a whole nother level other than just insurance and business.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. And how does faith tie into working with insurance for you?
Um, for me, there's been far too many times in my life where I don't want to say I hid my faith, or put it kind of on the back burner at work, because in a lot of places you're not supposed to talk about, like faith politics and, or religion politics and whatever. But um my transition to insurance, my faith was one thing I didn't hide from day
That's
one.
awesome.
Like I always talk about, like, Victor made me do a resume even after he hired me, but for more like hiring purposes. And I was like, I haven't done a resume, and it's like, tell about yourself. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be bold and I am not going to hide this. So the very first sentence of my resume, when it said, like, tell us about yourself, and it says, I am a child of God.
That's
And I was
awesome.
like, he doesn't want to hire me after that. Well, then that's on him. Like, I'm not hiding it this time. And Rural Mutual is actually a sister company to the Farm Bureau.
Okay.
Um, so Farm Bureau Association is, if you go back to its roots, it was very, very bold in its faith, essentially. We still go to like the annual banquets and things like that, and they'll still say a blessing before we all sit down and eat dinner at the banquet. And they really try to keep a lot of that faith-based in their core and in their values. So the fact that I was able to not only switch careers, but then to a company who is rooted in faith as well. It just made, for myself, this transition a lot easier, and it made it easier for me to not hide my faith. Because I'd always have like a cross necklace on and different things like that, and I would bring it up
Same.
in casual conversation at other places of employment. But here with the insurance, it's like, it doesn't matter if I'm coming out on your farm or if you're coming into the office, like, you're going to leave, and based off of how I present myself, what I'm wearing and what I'm doing, you're going to know I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to hide it. And if that means I don't get your business, well, then so be it. It's not meant to be. And so I've just kind of had that approach, and it's made life and work a lot easier.
That's awesome. Do you find yourself praying for some of your clients? Like if they have like a house fire or something like that, is that something that you guys like do? Like, oh, let's have a prayer before we begin our day for someone that you're working with.
We have not, but there has been times where I will have encounters during the day, and then text out to my Bible study group. Obviously, due to legality, I won't provide names and things. But I will message out to my Bible study group, or on Tuesday nights, if it's a Tuesday when I have that encounter, and we take prayer requests, and I will include them in on that prayer request. Again, confidentiality wise, like leaving their names out, leaving their location out. I'll just say someone in the community or someone from work type of thing, or one of our clients. So there is, because there's a lot of times where you don't always know somebody's values, and it's not that you don't want to offend them, but there's a line of respect.
Right. Know
Just
your
like,
audience.
correct. Like, I wouldn't want to go to somebody's house, or I wouldn't want someone to come to my house and be like, oh, Jesus is fake and the Bible's not real and all those things. Like, that's disrespectful to me. But on the same tone, like, if they have a satanic tattoo and they come to my house, but they don't mention it and they don't bring it up, we're going to leave it be, and we're not going to discuss it. And that's just kind of how I've always viewed it with at work. Like, hey, I have a sticker on my car that says God is greater than the highs and lows. I have a cross tattoo.
Yeah.
I have a cross necklace. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, what religion are you today? But I might mention, the Last Supper sitting over the dining room table if I walk into your home and see it. And you'd be surprised how much positive feedback I get from people. And they're just like, it makes me happy to know that we can have this conversation today.
We're
And I
blessed to
feel,
be here to have it.
Yep. And there's been times where I go out prospecting, and I've gotten a phone call from just a door hanger I left on someone's door, and they were like, I was praying, for God to give me a clear answer on what to do with my farm and my insurance and a couple different other larger decisions. We saw your door hanger. We called, you came out, and they're like, in the second I saw, the sticker on your car, like the cross necklace, all the things, are like, I knew this was a sign from God that we were meant to make the switch or make a transition in how we're doing things. So, yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I really love how God gives us like this little subtle notice, or like a message that he sends to us, whether it's
Yep.
through a friend or a family member or a coworker. Someone says something that is so specific that it's undeniable, that like, okay, God, like, I see you working your magic.
Yep.
I recognize this. I'm not going to deny it, and
Yep.
then act on it, So that's pretty remarkable that that you have those instances, with working, and then, the community. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see here. What else do I got for us? Crossroads Church. Let's
Yeah.
touch base on Crossroads a little bit more. Your involvement there. You said Bible studies. That's pretty awesome. You also do the worship. So I see that you were singing, quite a few times, or every day, every Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I feel like, like, obviously the Bible tells us that we are to serve, right? We're supposed to serve others. We're supposed to serve our community. And sometimes serving doesn't physically mean, I need to cook you a meal and serve you. It is to provide others with your gift that you were provided. And for myself, like, singing and being part of the music or worship team and stuff in church in general has been from day one. I was actually thinking about this coming into the podcast, like what started me in singing and on the worship for churches. And I was in first grade and my grandma played the organ on Sunday, and it was right before Christmas time. And the lead singer got sick halfway through church,
Oh no.
and it was communion time. And my grandma's like, "You're going to sing." And I was like, "What?" And so in first grade, like you're what, 6, 7 years old, something like
Something like
that.
that.
I had to sing Away in a Manger at communion at a Catholic church. And my grandma was like,
No
and
pressure, no pressure, right?
no pressure at all. No, she's like, "You know the song. It's okay. You just stand right here." And I'm like, um, but ever since that point, then my grandma had passed away. My mom took over playing the organ. And so then we kind of became like the mother-daughter duo.
Right.
Uh, and then we always went on Saturday nights. And so I've always had musical involvement in church. So when I switched to Crossroads almost 2 years ago, it was just for me kind of second nature, like, okay, what do I do? What can I do to get into this? And it was a little bit of a struggle at first just because the music tastes are completely different from Catholic to non-denominational. And but I love it. I mean, I hands down 1,000 times more love it than in a Catholic choir or doing just one-on-one with my mom. Like, don't get me wrong, my mom and I still do one-on-one sometimes for funerals and weddings and things like that. But having a worship team with the more contemporary music and just being together and having fun and seeing the interaction from the congregation is 1,000 times better than any other time I've ever had to deal with worship and
Yeah,
wedding.
I really like Crossroads Family Church. I had been to churches from here all the way to Mexico. My dad's from Mexico, so I grew up
Okay.
Catholic as well. I grew up in Chicago, so I went to St. Cletus Church in Illinois. And down in Mexico, like there was like gold all over the ceilings and these beautiful murals and
Gorgeous.
paintings, and it's gorgeous. And I mean, I've seen like hundreds and if not thousands of people on a Sunday just out there worshiping and praying because it was so packed. And it's like that's huge. But
Yeah.
I never felt connected, or I never felt really truly connected with Jesus. Like he hasn't entered my life. I was a kid, so I was baptized. That's more or less like a
Hmm.
christening as far as I'm concerned. They splashed some water on my head, call it
Yeah.
good. But it wasn't until I was an adult and I accepted Christ into my heart, like, all right, I'm struggling, God. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I can't lean on my own understanding. Like lead the way, like please, like I don't know what else to do. And when I accepted him as an adult and then I was baptized in Jesus' holy name,
Yeah.
that was like an automatic, like, all right, you're on the right path now, don't screw up. Like you're gonna make
That's right.
mistakes, but like he like makes us feel like if we sin, we feel like it hits us hard, like we know we did something wrong. And that's how I know that I'm on the right path. And besides the little signs that he sets to me, like, all right, you're going to receive this item from this person and it'll be at a cost that's like ridiculously cheap, so this is like a gift, like you're going to pay for it, but you're going to be a steward with this money, you're going to receive it cheaper, and then you need to do good with it. So
Yep.
leading by faith, being a good example, and then trying to promote that to the people around you. We're supposed to create disciples, right? So
Well, and that's just it. And that's kind of so what drove me to start Bible studies. And I always get flack for like when I say this, but I was like, the churches do an amazing job focusing on the children and the youth. And they do an amazing job focusing on the elderly. Or people that are retired and have more time, but they forget about like that 30 to 40 year gap of people
right in the middle.
right in the middle. And I said, I'm like, if we're the ones that are supposed to be teaching the children and we're supposed to be supporting the church and teaching the children, but we're not filling our own cup, what are we doing? Like, how is that helping anybody? So it literally started off with myself and two other gals from church, and we did a Bible study. And then we're like, okay, we're each going to invite one other person. So then I got up to like 6. And in the last 5 years, we average anywhere between 10 and 15 women every study that I do. And the part that I love is like I said, we have some that don't go to church at all, which is fine, but you can tell they're trying to still seek that relationship with God. And we have, like I said, Catholics and Lutherans and Methodists and Baptists. And we have, I think the youngest ones we've had are in like early 30s and the oldest ones are late 70s. And so it's a good group all around. And it's really, again, filling our cup. Like we get together and we do a meal. And then after the meal, the study starts. And I have to give a shout out to Jeff Stahl, because he allows us to do the Bible study at his location here in Watoma. So Stahl's
That's
Remembrance
awesome.
Center.
God
And I
bless
remember,
him.
yes, because I remember talking to him about it and I was like, well, what do you charge? And what are you doing? He's like, Molly, he goes, you're trying to do a Bible study. He goes, a goodwill offering is more than enough. You're doing the work of God and what he wants. I'm not charging you a hall rental fee.
That's
So
awesome.
we've
God
been
bless him.
very, very gracious to that. And then we,
Thank
like
you,
I said, we
Jesus.
offered, yeah, absolutely. And then each week we rotate between who does the meal and dessert. It's nothing fancy. And we just do guided studies. We've done everything from the Trinity to, I'm trying to even think, I should have wrote them all down, but the Trinity was one of the first ones. But then like our last one that we had just wrapped up this past week was on Paul, and basically having grit and perseverance and resilience. My next one starts on Tuesday and it's on the book of Elijah and developing that bold, fiery faith that a lot of people are wanting, especially since the Charlie Kirk situation. Everybody is seeking to get that boldness and
It's a
how,
revival that was started for
yeah,
sure.
for sure.
For
So,
sure.
and we've just done so many in between about making space, kind of like if it's important, you'll find a way. And here's how God guides us in that. So, and I hope to just be able to keep doing them more and more.
Just to touch base on something that you said there, that gap in between like 30 to like 50 maybe, they're the most digitally connected on social platforms. So they're going to be exposed to the most negativity, to the most, visually impacting material that could compromise the way we think, or, it could just plant a negative seed for the day.
Yep.
I think that a lot of times, and you had mentioned that you mainly it's women in your Bible studies, but I think that what I'd like to see in light of the Charlie Kirk revival that had been started, from the loss of his life, is that, we see more men step up, because I've seen that, that was something his
Mm-hmm.
wife was trying to advocate, like accept his challenge, like be a more godly and righteous man,
Yep.
like admit it when you have made mistakes, try to correct those mistakes and try to move forward, heal and move forward, right? You can't change what happened yesterday, but you can advocate for a better tomorrow. So that starts today, and that starts inside, internal, right? Acceptance, so
Yep.
yeah,
And
it's
that's just
it's
it.
real big.
And the enemy knows that he can go and try to turn the head of the household. He knows that if he can bring down the husband or the father of the household, that it can just dwindle from there. I forget what the statistics are, but there is a huge difference. They say, like, okay, like if you were raised in a Christian home with just a mom that went to church versus, a mom and dad that went to church with the kids. And I don't know what the statistics are, but I know it's a drastic difference from kids that were raised with just a mom that went to church versus ones that had a mom and a dad. And so I feel like men sometimes underestimate their importance of
100%.
being a godly servant and the importance of not only setting that example for your son, for your kids, but setting that example for just your household and your wife and for other people then as well. I was raised that way. Like my dad is a Christian and, read the Bible and all the things, but he wasn't a churchgoer. But my mom took all five of us to church every single week. And, I look at it, of us five kids, it's myself and my one sibling are the only two that actually go now, and actually practice our religion. Um, And it's not to say that that's because my dad didn't go to church, but how much more of an influence would it have been, or could it have been, had he set that example? Because like I said, statistically, it's there. The numbers are there. And so I just keep hoping and praying that men step up a little bit more and become more bold and proud in their faith. and attendance in church and involvement in church as well.
Yeah, as a person who deals with high anxiety and in a few instances that has prevented me from attending your Bible studies. Like I got the text message reminders like, hey, we're gonna have Bible study tonight. We're meeting at so and so's house, or this is what we're having for dinner. And I was like, I was so riddled with anxiety that I couldn't bring it to myself to actually show up and partake, and you know, just some challenges that I had to deal with and grow with, and I'm trying. I'm trying. So that kind of brings me to my next question. So like you deal with a lot of, like, let's say you deal with a lot of negativity in one day. How do you recharge? How do you, if you're filling up everybody's cup around you and you're running low, what is something that, I mean, I'm assuming you're going to reach for the Bible, right? And just pray about it, read a verse and pray about it. But what's something that you would typically do, or that you would suggest for someone listening, like having a bad day, you want to recharge, here's what you should try.
So I always say you need to have your jam out session.
Okay.
I'm very big into music. And music for me at least speaks volumes. There's many, many, many times where I will legitimately just I will just crank the music and have like a jam out session. And it's actually funny how the transition from secular music to non, like it takes a while to get there, but when you finally make that transition, it's huge. Like I never thought I would cry listening to a song that isn't, you know what I mean, and different things, but it's a relief.
Right.
Like yes, I pray every morning and do my devotional. I actually have a screen, my lock screen on my phone changes Bible verses every single day, and then I
That's
do a
awesome.
quick devotional based off of that. And then I do my Bible study typically at night versus during the day, because it does just kind of unwind me and relax my mind a little bit more. But a lot of times it is leave me alone. I just need a quick jam session. On my way home from work, or if I'm out prospecting, or if I'm even at work. I think Victor and Sharon sometimes get tired of hearing my music turned up if there's no one else in there, but
What is happening in there?
they've learned to just ignore it. But it is one of those where I think it can truly speak to you. Like worship music, like if you can feel worship music on a Sunday morning, you can feel worship music at 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. Like there is no necessarily right or wrong time to listen to worship music. And nowadays, with Christian artists making, the top 50 Billboard and stuff like that, like it makes it so much easier to then be able to listen to that as an unwind or as a way. But I've always just been that way. And prior to like Christian music, I would always I just need to this is like my song, and I just would play a rock song or play like a certain song, and you just belt it out and you sing and you just don't care about what's going on around you. But when you take that rock song and put it into like even a Christian rock song, like it's a whole different level. And people will probably think I'm crazy listening to this, and they're like, whatever, Molly, like you and your Jesus music, like you're crazy. But until you actually experience it and fully make that transition from secular to non, like it's just huge, and it's hard to explain or for people to comprehend fully.
Like music can be a medicine, but it could also be a poison, right? So it's like what you put inside of you. So you want to put good things inside of you, what you listen to, what you think. So being mindful of what you're thinking, what you're reading. So social
Yeah.
platforms, you're scrolling, you're kind of like intaking this, you're downloading this data, maybe not subconsciously, but it's
Yeah.
there. You're taking it in to some degree because you're exposing yourself to it. So good music can help you feel better, where certain other songs could bring you down, right? Like country music, it can make you miss somebody you haven't met yet. So I'm not a big fan of country music or most country songs.
Well,
And there's a
there's so much to it, like I said, that people don't really realize until you start looking into it or making that switch. And it is to that point of like I play Google, like we have a Google Home thing or whatever, and we play music on it all the time. And again, like different studies have shown that if people are like crabby and cranky and just downright like itchy, um, you can play Christian music in your home, and it has proven to enhance people's moods and enlighten their moods and calm them and make them feel safer and different things. Like they may not care for the music, but what it does to their body is making a change and they don't even realize it. Versus like, and I'm sure we've all witnessed it. Like if you know, like crank a rock song that's just like heavy, like screaming heavy metal, like, it's probably going to get you like pumped up, jacked up, but also make you want to be like, kind of thing. Versus if you listen to a mellow song, like you said, listening to country, like if it's like sad, dark, and depressing, well, it's like, oh, I'm just kind of in a frumpy mood, you know? So,
It's like a plant using the right ingredients, right? So you
yep.
want good water, you want healthy nutrients, and you want good soil and appropriate amounts of sunlight. So, it's just
Yep.
who you're around. They can impact you on what they say. Music's a medicine. Sometimes it makes you want to cry. You hear something in the song, and you're just like, but it's healthy to cry. I think there's like
Mhm.
scientific studies that your brain releases certain chemicals and like it
Yep.
counters that. So it's like you're processing, you're releasing, you're just catching your breath. So yeah, I think that's important. And one of the things that I like to do when, I start to feel like the world's kind of spinning a little bit too quick around me and I just need to
Mhm.
catch my balance, take my shoes off and just go walk on like a barefoot,
Grounding.
like, yeah, grounding
Yeah.
yourself. And just like all of a sudden, just take in the sunlight, take in the wind, the birds, just everything, just absorb it, appreciate life for what it is, for just the
Yep.
nothingness, the silence, the peace, and then you can kind of reset and just kind of go from there. So
Mhm.
that's
For
kind of one
sure.
of the things that I typically would recommend for people. But singing a jam out session, and just kind of like breaking things up a little bit would definitely help out too. So I could see how that works for you.
Yep. Yep.
Let me see what else I got for us here. I should get better at like memorizing questions and stuff.
That's all right.
um So just to touch base a little bit on the Chamber of Commerce, because that's how you and I met.
Yep.
I knew Danny since high school. So, him being a real estate agent, I kind of got affiliated with him and, the real estate side of things. Um, and then you're a part of the Chamber of Commerce. So there was like the business after five so that you guys were hosting and stuff like that. Maybe you want to
Yep.
touch base a little bit on connection and community with that?
Yeah. So I started doing chamber events and different things. Back when I was at Moosin, I think back in like 2018 was the first time I went to a chamber event. And then I joined the board, and I had been on the board for the last 3 years, 2 years of which was as president.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I knew that
so I
already.
mean, yeah. Um, it's definitely it's good because you develop the different relationships that you need in the business world. But also even in your personal world, like you get to know these other business owners and you get to talking with them, and then you start to hear about their personal lives or get to know about their personal lives from them. And not only now have you made a business connection, now you've made a personal connection. I have some people um, that I met through the chamber. They knew of me and I knew of them, but we have formally had met at the chamber. And they had made the comment when they came to the chamber banquet, and they were like, "Hey, I love how bold you are about your faith." They're like, "Keep it up." And when I came time for a Bible study again, all of a sudden it circled back, and I was like, you know what? I'm inviting her. Like, I'm inviting her to one of my Bible studies because she complimented me. So now she's stuck. I'm going to invite her to my Bible study. And
That's
she's been
awesome.
attending since. Um, so it's definitely grafted towards that. But then also, that's how I got my job at Victor's. Um, was basically him and I had met through the chamber. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to look for a different job, but he had mentioned he was maybe looking for someone to hire, and it just kind of connected. And then next thing you know, he's like, "Yeah, I'll hire you." And I said, "Okay, I guess I'm getting a new job." But so we had made connections that way. So there's definitely a lot of benefits. You can find new and gain new employees, new relationships, all while supporting other people's businesses as well. So
Yeah, I'm all about small business owners and connection with community members. So, kind of just trying to advocate things, and trying to highlight some of that. So,
Yeah.
Rural Mutual deals with property insurance. I'm assuming like business insurance. So things as far as like you had mentioned, the Farm Bureau, there's like crops and stuff. So there's money involved with all that stuff too. So you actually touched base on a question I was going to ask you, like, have you brought someone from a business capacity into church? Like, have you led them or like helped make that connection? And you had said that you're like, I'm going to invite her to the Bible study. So
I
that
would say
kind
I
of, that's
yeah.
awesome.
Like I've made the connection to Bible study. I have not brought anybody to the church per se.
Okay.
I always say that like it's a goal of mine to be able to fully guide somebody back into faith or just into faith in general. Um, if I'm doing it now by inviting them to a Bible study, I'm not aware of it because they've never expressed it. But I know I've been able to help guide people into a deeper relationship with Christ, and I've
So
been
important.
able to get them back into maybe not necessarily the church doors, but at least back into their Bibles. We've had some members where they're like, I'm going to join the Bible study. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's the book. This is what we're doing. And then I get a text message and they're like, oh my goodness, Molly, like I opened up the first page of the Bible study and I realized I don't even have a Bible at home anymore. I have to go buy a new one.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so there has been instances like that. And that stuff like that is why I do it. Like, I don't care if, you know, I always say, like, if I don't succeed in life, but at the end of the day, like, if I bring someone to Christ or bring someone deeper into their faith or closer to God, like, that is all I care about. That is what I'm here for. And if I get flack from other people because of that, well, that's their loss. That's not my problem. I'm not here to worship and serve them. And
Amen.
that's, we always, I don't want to say joke around, but my mom's best friend had passed away a year and a half
My
ago from
condolences.
cancer. And thank you. And at her funeral, somebody stood up because she had such an array of people at her funeral. And someone had stood up and said, I want to just let you know, like, I met her when I was at the lowest of the lows, and she brought me back to Christ. She took me to church with her and she did this and did this. And she goes, and I'm now baptized and I'm a believer in all these things. And I like look back on that and I'm like, that is what I want. Like, I want someone to stand up at my funeral and say that I am here today because she got, drew me closer to Christ and helped me develop a relationship with God. Like, that is what my goal is. That is what I want. And that's why I haven't been quiet about my faith nearly as much in the last 3 years as I had been prior. Um, and that's where I guess my boldness would come out, I guess you could say. Um, but I've made it my goal. I know it annoys my husband, but he's always like, oh, you're doing another study, you're doing another Bible study. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And he's like, aren't those done yet? But but he lets me do it without any too much grief.
Yeah,
So
we don't have to turn a light off when it comes to Jesus, right? We can always keep that light on. So
yep.
Motel
I
6
always,
will keep the light on for you.
I always tell him it's really just because he has to fend for himself for supper on Tuesdays. But um
That's
um but yeah, I
awesome.
mean that's what I've just kind of made my purpose. And um I mean, like, Victor's very well aware that that's what my purpose was because I was doing these Bible studies um before I started working there. And he's like, do what you have to do. Like, if you need to continue to do them during the day and take off of work, then so be it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and so he's been amazing. And he's probably been the most supportive boss when it comes to my religion compared to any other. Um, so that's just a blessing in and of itself. Danny, like I said, has been amazing and super supportive with it. Um, and I've always come from, like I said, a very Christian household. I mean, my mom still goes to church and is very active and things like that. So it definitely helps having a very, very good base and people to fall back on and people to pray with you and people to give you guidance. I talk with my brother and sister-in-law down in Texas quite a bit. And we bounce ideas off each other. Probably me asking them for more input than anything. But they're doing the same thing down there, just in a different state. But at the end of the day, like, it's all, we all come together and we all figure out how we can serve together to get more followers.
All walks of life, welcome in church. We definitely want as
Yep.
many people as possible. So for any listeners that are out there that are like on the fence or they're confused, you don't have to feel any pressure when you come to churches. Like Had said, I had visited churches from here all the way to Mexico, and like I never really got the connection with Jesus until like later on in life. So, it's a good place to just start. So like, even like you said, just guiding people to just pick up a Bible and just read it. That's a point. That's a starting point. Coming to church and getting to the point where you're confident enough to sing, especially singing at the top of your lungs when some of us are not great singers and we don't have voice boxes that were carved out by angels. So the fact that I'm even doing this podcast is already a miracle enough, all glory to God. And you had mentioned that you're like, I've listened to the podcast and you're just itching to talk about Christ. You're like, I just have a feeling that you need to talk about Jesus and you want to. So, as it just happened that the person that I had set up to be on the podcast today is very busy and we're not able to. So I'm grateful that you were able to accommodate that by adjusting the schedule a little bit. I try to plan ahead, but never really can in God's perfect timing. So one way or another, I got an amazing Christian on here today, and we can talk about, helping people and bringing them to Christ and just to make that connection, So that's pretty awesome. As far as the balance between faith, family, and work, how do you juggle all these things? Do you have any tips or tricks for anyone on that?
Don't try to do it all, and master the art of saying no. It sounds a lot easier than what it is. And about,
I know that.
as I say, I don't even want to say that like I've mastered it, because I haven't, but I've really, in the last year or two, have learned to say no. You can't do everything. And if you try to do everything, you're not going to do all of them successfully. And you're going to give it maybe 50% and call it good enough. And if you can do it all, you'll probably get burnt out.
Great advice.
Yeah. And so there's been a lot of things where sometimes people look at me as they're like harsh, like, what do you mean you don't want to help? And it's like, it's not that I don't want to, it's that I can't. I need to prioritize what's important. And at the end of the day, like, prioritizing, like, it sounds harsh and mean, but it's like, I'm sorry, like, church and my Bible studies, like, they're more important than social events and social gatherings and different things. In the last 6 months, I've had to make very hard decisions family wise. And again, too, like, people look at me and they're like, well, how can you choose, your husband, or how can you choose your kids, or how can you choose this? And it's like, because like I choose God first, and then my marriage comes second, and then it's my children, and then it's everybody else below that. And I know a lot of parents don't agree with that. They're like, what do you mean you're not supposed to choose your spouse before your kids? Well, that's not what the Bible tells us. We are supposed to serve God, and then serve our spouses, and then our children. And that's with the caveat that your spouse isn't physically, mentally, or verbally abusive, or any of the other like stuff that comes along with it. And I think if we really stick with those values, that everything else falls in line.
Amen.
But it doesn't mean that you don't have to work for it either. Like, I'm actually chuckling because I literally sitting here in Danny's office, like, doing this, and it's like all weathered and whatever, but it's literally like a 31-day Bible study him and I did together.
I love it.
Just over a year ago. And it's like the husband on pursuit. And then mine says like the wife in pursuit, and it's for 31-day challenge, and it's Bible studies and different things for loving your spouse. So
that's awesome.
It doesn't mean that it's not going to take work. But anything that's important, I think, requires and demands time of us and is important. And that's just how I've prioritized it. Like, Tuesday nights, no, like Wednesday nights, it's a non-negotiable. It's Wednesday. It's church night. If church is canceled for some reason, then maybe I can attend. But people now, after years of doing this, have just gotten to the point they're like, hey, can you on Wednesday? And then they look at me and they're like, never mind. That's church. You can't. I got it. Okay.
They know.
Um,
They know.
um,
That's
and it's
awesome.
okay. It's hard at first, but the things that are good for you don't always come easy. Like I always compare it to like getting healthy and fit and staying healthy and fit. Like it's not always easy to, put away the ice cream or put away the dessert or eat it in moderation, but you feel so much better when you don't have it or when you only have a single serving instead of a half a pan of brownies. Like it's very much like that. It's like you fuel your body with food that can fuel you, but then you also need to fuel your mind with the Bible and God's word to then just wholeheartedly be into it.
Discipline,
And yeah.
self-discipline. Discipline's mentioned multiple times in the Bible.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty
So
big one.
it
So
is.
as far as encouragement for someone else, to start living out their faith inside their everyday to day life, what would be something that you would encourage someone to do? Like you had said that if not reading the Bible in the morning, read it at night. Like that. If
Yep.
that helps you unwind, give us some sort of encouragement, something in that regard. So like if someone's like on the edge of like, all right, you know what, I'm going to try to do one more thing in my day, like whether it's tie my shoes and make my bed in the morning and do things right. What would be something right in the direction of Christ? What would you recommend?
My number one thing I would recommend is be bold and not ashamed. Um, eh, because like if you're not living out your faith, you can read it in your bedroom all you want. But if you're not leading by example or telling other people, um, like you just need to be, I don't want to say like in their face, but it's kind of like you don't want to hide it just in your home and keep it there and then not be able to show it to anybody else because that's not what Christ wants. That's
Right.
not what Jesus did when he was here on earth. Like this isn't something that we should be keeping a secret. And it's not something that we should be ashamed of and it's not something that we should be hiding. And at the end of the day, a lot of people they're putting their worldly wants and needs, I guess, the need to be popular or the need to be liked by others over their need of living for God. And once you can finally allow yourself to get over that hump of, guess what? I don't need reassurance from Susie down the street. I just need God's approval and God's reassurance. Like once you make that mental switch, it's a game changer. There is like a huge weight of relief like lifted off of you and life truly just is that much better. Like and I know it all probably sounds cliche and they're like, oh, you just do crazy Bible thumpers, but it really truly is.
Proudly, proudly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that. That's just it. It's like you don't know what you're missing out on until you get to this point. Like it's almost like that Christian high that you get and you never really come down from because you just keep filling your cup and you just
Feels
keep
good.
doing the things. And it is amazing. It's like you ever look at someone, you're like, well, why are they always so happy? And why are they always so? And it's like, well, if they're filled with the Spirit and they're constantly filling their cup and they're not worried about if Susie down the street thinks that their clothes are popular enough or whatever, or they're driving a new car, like none of that matters at the end of the day because all that matters is what Christ thinks of us and how we are serving him. And if you can make that so like reading your Bibles, yes, continue to do that. Find a church if you can. And if you can't, find a group of people that you can read the Bible with and read the gospel and that are going to fill your cup in a positive way. I mean, I've had men in my Bible studies. Like, if you're just like, hey, I don't even know where to begin, like, give me a call, shoot me a Facebook message, like, whatever. I can at least somewhat lead you in the right direction. I know men's groups that are going on, I know women's groups that are going on other than my own. Or you can come join ours. Like I said, we have men that are at ours. And I mean, we have fun and have great conversation. Um, So it's just take that step forward to send someone that message to find a study, send somebody a message to, talk Christian views or religious views with them in a positive way for support. But basically, it's just be bold and don't hide it. Don't just keep it in your home. Well, at home, I pray. At home, I read the Bible. Okay, well, let's take it a step further and let's bring it out of the shadows and bring it into light and start showing it to everybody else.
I'm a newer Christian myself, so that's something that I've been trying to do a little bit more, is people more bold with it, more than just like the having tattoos and like I have praying hands and crosses on me, and making sure that I'm not afraid to show those, but praying in public before I eat, I do that a lot more. And I think that it's important for people to see that. And as far as like Bible study goes, a lot of people that are on the fence, I'd like to say that, once you start getting into the Bible and understanding who Jesus Christ was and, what he's done for us, you start to feel like this internal gratification. And that helps with like not wanting external validation. Like you don't need Susie down the block's opinion on whether or not you're doing things right, or if your car is good enough, or, so it definitely helps out a lot, and I definitely can advocate for that myself, with what I've dealt with, depression, anxiety. Jesus has helped me a lot with that. So definitely standing bold in your faith and trying to do more. Charlie Kirk kind of helped inspired me do this podcast. Like I wanted to be more bold. I wanted to make an impact outside of my four walls. So that was kind of like the thought process behind it. But then I was in Tennessee a couple weeks ago and I ended up being on a podcast with someone that I just had met. And I'm like, this is a sign. This is another sign that I can do this, and then I can pull this off. I don't have to be a pro. I don't have to have the best equipment. I just have to have the right guests and the right people that want to talk and advocate. So really excited for everything that's happening with this podcast. And I forgot to mention in the middle of it, another shout out to my sponsor, Melissa Wood, at What the Snark, for sponsoring the season 1 podcast, because
this is a hoodie.
That's where you got that from.
So,
there you go.
It's our logo. It's a hoodie. So
the merch shout out.
Yep.
She's got a box coming my way. I think he said like next week, possibly. There should be a shipment coming my way with some merch for the podcast. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, awesome. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just starting. This is just the beginning. This is episode 3. And here we are. We're 47 minutes into this. Like, just like that, time flies. That is a full episode.
It's really, and it comes down to literally, like you said, just getting the drive and just the ambition. Like, that's it. I'm taking it. I'm taking this shot. I'm taking this step. Like I'm going to do it. And then you just go with it. It can be chaotic at first. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but you just keep moving forward and just keep doing, and all the bugs and the fixes fix themselves, and it eventually all works out. And, and if it doesn't in the end, you at least tried and gave it your all. But that's the other thing too, is if you put God at the center of your decisions or at the center of your goal, it will work out. If it's meant to be what aligns with
his will,
then that's what's going to happen, and it's going to work out. And it might take a while to get there, but the persistence, like our last study, was that grit that you develop and persistence to not give up. Like Paul never gave up, sitting in prison. And that's just what keeps us going and how we keep persevering as Christians and what separates us from a lot of the others.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for where I'm at in my journey. I'm over 2 years alcohol and nicotine free, and I'll glory to God for that, because I would not have done that on my own. I gave up. I was like, I'm tapping out. I can't do this anymore. Like, I need to make some healthy choices, keep some people away from me that just don't have my best interests at heart. And sometimes that's family, and sometimes that's friends. And just knowing that, like, this is toxic, this isn't productive, I'm going to choose Christ. I'm going to choose myself over this, like you said, God first, and then your spouse second, and then your children after. So making sure that you have that covenant is number one, right? So God showed us that that's important. So man and woman, and I think that social media is kind of like tainted what that's supposed to look like, but I'm glad that in your guys' household that's firm. I think Danny's an absolutely great man, so I can imagine he's a great home leader as well. We didn't get to talk about him enough, but that's because he's supposed to come on here at some point. maybe later this season, maybe next season,
Yep. Yep.
um, I don't want to give too much away because I want him to have a chance to come on the show and, talk about some of the cool stuff that he's involved with. But, no, I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day today on Sunday, a day that we're supposed to rest.
Yep.
I look at this like this isn't work. I'm doing good things. I'm doing this in Jesus' holy name. I might not mention him every episode, but I will try to advocate, my faith in every episode. It's a matter of touch and feel with the audience, and how we
Yep.
communicate things. But I'm super excited to have this platform. I'm super excited that you joined us today, and I'm really excited for the next episode. So, is there any final words that you want to tell everyone here today?
No, I just want to thank you for having me be on it. Because I sometimes don't always view myself as, someone knowledgeable enough to be able to talk about.
You're a
So
great community member, so
well, thank you. So I want to thank you for that. And like you said, just really encourage everybody to, if you don't have a Bible, go buy one. Or if you don't want to buy one and spend money, go download the app. We all have cell phones, and you can go and all the different translations, all the different things, download it on your phone, read a verse a day, start small. It doesn't need to be anything major. And I promise that God will speak to you in some way, shape, or form, and you will start something that you did not expect, just
and
by
Jesus
taking that simple step forward.
and
So
Jesus loves them already. He already loves them.
absolutely. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing, is like, there isn't something that you've done or thought of or haven't done that he doesn't already know. So there is no judgment. There is no fear. There is no embarrassment, um, because he already knows. So
Awesome. Excellent. Nice, kind words to end on.
yes,
Well, that's it for this episode of the Freeman Focus. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we hope that you tune in next week. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.
bye.